It's time to share secrets and insights from fellow entrepreneurs. If you're looking to grow or start a business and you're a game changer, then keep listening to Avanti Entrepreneur for great advice from your host, Dave Mamano, America's Entrepreneur Coach.
Hey, Avanti Tribe, Dave Mamano here. Just want to thank our sponsor, Paychex. You know, Paychex, they make it simple for businesses of all sizes to pay and manage their team. They make payroll easy with employee pay options, including direct deposit, checks, pay cards, and so much more. Founded over 4 decades ago to relieve the complexity of running a business so that the owners can focus on what matters most. Above all else, and more than any other company, Paychex makes it simple. Visit AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Go to our partner link and check them out. They're offering you a free month of payroll just for giving them a shot as an Avanti Tribe member. Give them a shot, folks. They really help this podcast to be possible. Really appreciate Paychex. Now, enjoy the show. Welcome to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Dave Mamano, your host, and I am here to help you move forward because that's what Avanti means. The way I do that is I interview just really rock star business owners, entrepreneurs, business leaders, thought leaders, and that's what we're here today. We're here today with a really nice young man. I've been talking to Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today, Dave. I'm excited to be here.
Really appreciate it. Your bio here is very interesting. So Jeremiah Smith is a co-founder and CEO of SimpleTiger, a boutique digital marketing agency that specializes in SEO for entrepreneurs. For 11 years, Jeremiah has helped companies like Segment.com, Shopify, NBC, MTV, E-Trade, LG, and Sports Illustrated see significant gains in their search results, organic traffic, and revenue. During his time growing SimpleTiger, Jeremiah has seen firsthand how clients have been unnecessarily burned by other agencies in the past or confused by misleading SEO strategies. The SEO industry is plagued with a lot of smoke and mirrors, black hat techniques, and a lack of transparency. Jeremiah's mission is to open up about why many other SEO marketers and agencies won't share the practices and frameworks that actually work. Why share this? Because transparency is much needed in an industry where sharing is typically frowned upon. As a fully distributed team, SimpleTiger has helped venture-backed startups with everything to lose all the way up to the largest companies in the world to get on the first page of Google. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to SEO, like some would have you believe, but there are simple, effective, and there's a right way to do it. So, Jeremiah, once again, welcome to the show. I'm excited to talk to you because you're right. I bet most of the listeners listening to the Avanti podcast right now have been burned. I've been burned. Was burned hard. I was burned very hard by a guy that proposed to be an expert. I paid $5,000 a month. This is for another business, maybe about 5 years ago. $5,000 a month, and he was going to put me on the first page of Google. He was going to do all this incredible stuff. $5,000 a month. We had my team create a ton of content, and he said all the right things. Well, what happened was he did the reverse. He put me in the Google penalty box.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty bad, right? So I went from just on my own doing okay. He actually $5,000 a month put me in a place that I was unsearchable because he did, and I think you're going to call it a black hat technique.
Yep.
But what he did is he had relationships, quote unquote relationships, with hundreds and hundreds of other websites that he didn't own. But what he would do is he placed my content on their sites. So that it would link back to my site, and supposedly that would, but it was like, so at that time it was an education site for teenagers, helping them with college planning. So he literally put some of our college planning articles on like Al's Garage, right? Auto Garage. And so Google got smart enough to realize that Al's Auto Garage has nothing to do with college planning.
Right.
And it caught on to his technique, and I'm sure many others, and put my site in the penalty box. And then he wouldn't admit it, and he got mad at me. And I said, "Wait a second!" It was a miserable experience. I'm
Man.
mad when I think about it. And anybody that knows me, I don't get mad that often, but
Yeah.
I feel like I was bamboozled a lot. And I say that because I think might be a nice ramp up to you, who seems like you are addressing that still does go on.
Right.
You know, like people are saying fancy, sophisticated digital marketing phrases, and they're waving their hands like this, and they sound
Right.
really smart, and we trust because we don't know, right?
Right.
Don't look behind the curtain, but I can help you. And then boom, sometimes you get burned. Often you get burned. So you decided to just really, address that for what it's worth and take it on. So please tell us about your journey as a digital marketer and how you're helping people today.
Sure. Yeah. So, man, my journey. Now, I think you hit on a lot of good things here about people getting burned and just being sold the wrong thing and told the wrong thing in regards to SEO, because it can be a complex and confusing subject, which means that it's easy to hide behind that. It's easy for companies who are selling that service to hide behind the complexity and the difficulty of it. But really, if you dig into it, you really study it, and you trust the right people, I like to assume I'm in that camp, and I really think I am, then you'll learn that it's actually not so difficult. It's actually not that complex. It is just difficult in that it takes time and effort of doing certain activities, such as producing well-written content that speaks to your target audience and things like that. So, I'll go into more of that in just a moment, but I just wanted to kind of address what you brought up there, because I think it's a really good point. Yeah, and it kind of relates to how I got into this journey. It's funny, I was working for a small mom and pop shop company that sold ATVs and dirt bikes in Atlanta, and they wanted me to build their website. And so I built their website for them, and I was kind of in charge of their marketing at the time. And I was using traditional marketing techniques, didn't know anything about this new web, digital marketing, and but was really drawn to it. And I knew that there had to be some opportunities online. So one day we get a call from this company, and it was like, I can't remember the name of the company, but it was like internet enhancement or advancement or something like that. And they called us and they pitched us this SEO thing. And I said, well, how does SEO work? And he said, well, I can't really explain it. There's a lot to it. It's very complex. It would, but trust me, we can do it for you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, well, do you have competitors? I mean, like, are there other companies? I'm being totally naive here. I'm asking him probably all the wrong questions, but it was incredible how he handled those. He didn't handle them well. He was like, well, yeah, we do have competition, but everybody kind of does it a bit differently. And then I'm like, wait a second. All right. So there's this thing you can do, and everybody does it differently. But you can't explain to me how it works or what it really, really is. You're just explaining to me the outcome, which is that I'll rank organically in Google. And could I learn how to do this? Can you teach me how to do this? Can I pay you to teach me how to do this? And they're like, oh, no, it takes a really long time. You kind of have to go to school for it and everything. So I started looking around online, and I could not find schools for SEO. Nobody's teaching SEO. This was, first of all, how I discovered SEO, this company pitching it to us. It was wild, because around that same time, or right before they contacted us, the company that I built the website for asked me, how do we get our site to show up in Google? So I had already been doing a little bit of research and trying to figure out how to get the site into Google. I thought you submitted it to Google or something like that. And in those days you did. But anyway, so this company finds us, pitches us on this idea, but my BS filter went up, and I was like, wait a second, I don't believe what you're trying to sell me here. I didn't say all that. I was very nice and polite and everything. Got off the phone, and I start really digging into this company, and I start looking at some of their competitors, and I started realizing, oh my gosh, this is a whole industry. There's plenty of money to be made here. There's a service here. I need to learn this. And before I knew it, I stumbled across a couple of resourceful blogs and websites that teach it. The main one was SEO Moz, SEOmoz.org. That was way back before they became Moz.com, which they are today. That's where I started actually learning search engine optimization and started practicing it on this client's website with their permission. I told them, I said, here's the deal. It's actually a lot harder to get it into Google originally thought, but I want to do it for you guys. Let's see what we can do, but just know that I'm on the job learning this. I don't know how to do it. I'm practicing. Well, they didn't have anybody else that could do it, and they were fine with me practicing so long as it showed results.
Good thing you weren't like wanting to be a doctor. Let me practice on you.
Right, exactly. Oh, it was a huge opportunity for me, and I saw nothing but upside with it, because I thought if we get listed in Google and I can get us to show up for a couple of keywords. I know the search volume for those keywords because I was learning how to do this at the time. And if people are actively searching those keywords, I'm sure we're going to get lots of traffic. Well, that's exactly what happened. Luckily, those were the easy days of SEO. You could do just a few things and rank well. Whereas compared to today, SEO is significantly harder. It's way more manual nowadays than it ever has been. But it still works just the same. It's still just as valuable as it was back then. And so, yeah, that really just kind of lit my fire and pointed me down the direction of building an agency that does SEO.
Very cool. So tell me about the name SimpleTiger. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so Tiger was a nickname my father has always called me. And then Simple was something where I knew from a branding perspective, we wanted to have something that was visual and easy to capture kind of mentally and subconsciously. And at the same time, I wanted something that actually spoke a reason or a purpose in its name. And what I thought about was how a tiger sleeps about 21 hours a day. A lot of people don't realize that. They sleep all day. Yeah, they're very, very, you would think lazy creatures, but then they wake up and they kill something, eat it, and then they go back to sleep, And so I liked
a nice life.
Yeah. So I liked the idea of this animal kind of living out the 80-20 principle in his life, right? Yeah. Like he really doesn't have to do much to be a very effective predator. And so I really liked the idea of creating an agency that was focused on simply effective results. So let's focus on the couple of things you need to do to get the most impact that you possibly can. And let's not worry about all the other fluff. Right. And so from an SEO perspective, that's a large part of what we do. There are little details that you can get caught in the weeds doing SEO and generate, an iota more results for your client. Whereas if you just really focus on the key, core concepts and you deliver those well, you're going to deliver massive impact for your client, and they're not going to care about those other little details.
So you said the 80-20 rule. I teach a class in entrepreneurship at University of Rochester. And in fact, I just got back and I talked about, they want a nugget, right? They always want something to, like, for my personal experience as an entrepreneur, I'm kind of probably the oddball, quote unquote professor at University of Rochester, because I'm not a professor. I'm like an actual business guy that goes in to teach a class. Right.
Sure.
And so I'm like, I'm in the real world here. So they're always like, so Mr. Mamano, Professor, blah, 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 tell me about something that you can, you've learned in your years of being an entrepreneur that you can teach us practical,
Mm-hmm.
So this morning I just talked about the 80-20 rule, and it's, the Pareto principle, right?
Right.
And for anybody that doesn't know this, and Jeremiah, I'm glad you brought it up, because I think it's such a good concept for any part of your life and your business. And a lot of people will use it for their customers. You're actually using it for your business model.
Right.
Sounds like you're going to do this 20% of the time to get 80% of the results. Love it. And that's what the Pareto principle is, everybody, the 80-20 rule, where if you look, it applies to many areas of life. So like if you look at your company revenue, I can almost guarantee that 20% of your customers make up 80% of your revenue.
Right.
If you walk into your closet, I bet I can almost guarantee that out of all your clothes, you wear 20% of those clothes 80% of the time, right?
Yep. I'm going through a closet cleanup right now, and that's exactly what I'm finding.
You're getting rid of the 80%, right?
Right. That rule rears its head all over the place.
You're like, this black shirt, I wore it yesterday and the day before. I just love it, So
it's great. Exactly.
But I used the example this morning in class is to think of your client avatar, right? Your client persona. How can you get very, very specific in creating your client avatar and say, okay, these are the 20% of the people that I'm going to go after that's going to make up 80% of my business. Mm-hmm. You're saying out of all the digital marketing strategies out there, that you feel like you can super hyper focus on 20% of those to deliver really 80% of the results that is possible.
Right. And we do that also with not just our target clientele, but our service offering. So there are certain services that we do not offer because they don't, in our minds, deliver on that 80/20 promise, at least to our target clientele.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're just not going to do it. You know,
Yeah.
print, radio, television, all of that has its place. And I think it has a strong place in media. We still see it being spent on heavily and being very effective. But for our target audience, what we want to do, it isn't that 20% that yields the results for our clients. So SEO has really been that kind of bread and butter for a long time. We can go to any company and see where they're performing in Google, and almost any company can do better and generate more sales and more conversions from it. And so because of that, we saw massive opportunity in just not just selling that, but actually delivering on that for clients and watching the perspective of SEO change client by client. And
Yeah.
that's been an exciting project for me. It's almost my mission to re-educate people on search engine optimization, especially the ones who have some experience in it and who kind of walked away with a bad taste in their mouth and aren't totally sure they're sold on the idea of SEO anymore because of the people in it. You know, I mean, it's that's how a lot of things work, really. You know, the people in an institution or in a thing are really what make up your idea or your thought of the thing, because we're social creatures and we rely on each other for that. So I think it's just important to keep people in mind in regards to doing this and to think what would matter to me. Well, I think transparency, I think knowledge of the subject matter would give me a less of a need to trust someone and more of a need to just find someone good at it, right? I don't have to trust someone as much if I know what they're doing. If I actually know what they're doing, then I can just say, "Are you good at what you do?" Yes. Okay. Cool. Let's get started. You know.
Yeah. Good old fashioned trust.
Right.
Yeah, and kudos to you for really having a very defined niche. I see a lot of business owners, you know, and they just get caught up in the entrepreneurial mania of trying to be everything to everybody, and then they become nothing to nobody. And
Right.
so it's like they know what SimpleTiger and Jeremiah stands for, and they really could put the stake in the ground and say, this is what we're going to do for you. This is the problem we solve, and this is what you're going to get, right? So
Right. Yeah. And you're hitting on kind of a focused niche for us, which is our persona or avatar that you were referring to, which is SaaS companies. We focus our services and our offerings, our solutions and everything around SaaS companies. Now, for many years, I've worked with anyone. I would work with anyone, and I was trying to appeal to anyone, like you mentioned there. And I found that the struggle was not just that we weren't relevant to anyone because we were trying to appeal to everyone, but it was also an internal struggle for us to build a system or a business process that could be scalable and easily executable across a variety of different business models. I mean, doing something for one of the world's largest media companies and then moving over to one of the world's largest oil companies and then moving over to a small restaurant down the road, I mean, you're going to use massively different strategies and systems for all those. However, if I'm working with a SaaS company day in and day out, the business model is pretty predictable in terms of what they're going to want out the other end, whether that is an enterprise SaaS model or a consumer-focused SaaS model. Pretty much the inputs are usually the same. And so yeah, we picked our niche based on that. We also used the 80/20 analysis to determine that niche. We found what percentage of our clientele were generating most of our sales, but not just our sales, but also our internal team morale and happiness on projects. I think that's important for agencies. So if you're an agency owner out there listening, pay attention to the fact that some clients are fun to work with, others are not fun to work with. And that's okay. That's okay. That doesn't make them bad people or anything. It just means that they may not be the right fit for your agency. For example, auto dealers. I can't work well with auto dealers, but I have a friend that owns an agency, and that's all they work with, and they do fantastic work and they love their clients. So there's a fit for everyone out there. You just got to find yours.
Hey, Jeremiah, have I got a deal for you?
Right. Boy, you sound like it.
I took off my plaid sport jacket. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's probably more 1970s car dealer. We'll give a
Right.
break. A little more sophisticated today, but you're right. I mean, it's everybody is not for everybody, and you just have to pick your niche and find your fifth. And then sometimes you just get a client who really is just a bad client, and they're not, and I have fired myself from clients, right?
Right.
I'm walking away. God bless you. Good luck. I wish you well.
Same here.
But I'll take the blame. I'll say, I'm not a good fit for you. I wish you well. And
Yeah.
the energy that I get from doing that, it's like, okay.
Freedom. Yeah. I feel the same way. I've done that multiple times.
Yeah. So, obviously a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this podcast are, beginning to middle stage entrepreneurs. You're talking about SaaS software as a service companies. What, what kind of, lessons are there from what you're doing for the SaaS companies that also could be applied to helping the small to medium sized business entrepreneur?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think this is very critical for the small to medium sized business and entrepreneur, whether they're in SaaS or not. You could take a lot from the book, The Lean Startup, and the whole Lean Startup methodology. And we take a lot from that, mainly focusing on a minimum viable product for the client to sell and a minimum viable product in regards to the audience and the marketing mix that we're using to deliver sales for that client. So for us, an MVP or minimum viable product as a marketing agency is what specific service, what specific direction do we need to go with our marketing efforts for you, client, in order for you to get the most results, and to validate that as quickly as possible and to continue a feedback loop of validation. So something that I highly recommend if you are an early stage startup, if you are an established business, a year or two under your belt, something along those lines, no matter what, I still recommend starting with something where you can validate results ahead of time. So for example, getting into search engine optimization, the idea is to show up in Google organically for certain keywords that you want to rank for. Before ever diving headfirst into SEO, though, what I recommend you do is actually start with some paid search effort. So a paid search project allows you to take let's say 100 keywords that you think you'd like to rank for and test out how well they perform in driving traffic and conversions and sales through your website. If you don't do that first, then here's what's going to happen. You're going to invest in, let's say, 100 keywords in an SEO project, and you're going to spend a year writing content for each one of those keywords. You're going to build links for each one of those keywords. You're going to optimize pages for each one of those keywords. And then you're going to find out towards the end of the year, if you're lucky, that only a tiny handful of those keywords actually drove conversions. Again, that Pareto principle rearing its head. And so you don't want to go a year and $20, $30, $50, $100,000 investment into SEO to find out what actually works for you. You'd rather spend $1,000 and this month figure out what's going to work for you. And so do that with a paid search project, dump some good money in it, understand that you're not going to get a return on that investment right now, but that you're going to learn a massive amount about what your audience actually uses in terms of keywords and how well they convert. And after doing that, you might find that your 100 keyword list should actually be about 7 keywords long, and that you should focus on those keywords with white hot heat, write lots of content about them, do a lot of PR around those keywords, make sure your site is set up for those keywords, continue running your ads because they might actually be effective. And then organically, you'll start to rank for those keywords. That's something that I highly recommend. A lot of the larger companies out there can kind of afford the shotgun SEO approach and just see what happens. But even them, they're doing the paid search thing, and they're doing it very effectively.
Excellent. So I've heard that the common word you've said is content, right? Creating original content for your site. And just, a little personal question here. I heard years ago that, let's say I write an article and put it on my site, but let's say another website wants to have that article too. Now, initially I would think like, oh, that's great. It's in 2 places now. But correct me if I'm wrong, Google doesn't like that, right? Google only wants it to be on one site. Is that correct?
Right. Well, Google understands that. That's what's important. Google understands that humans are going to do that. There's plagiarism, but then there's also content syndication. Just because a news story came out on Reuters, for example, doesn't mean that it can't appear everywhere else. Yeah. So what they have to do is make their own unique spin for those other media publications to actually have a relevant angle on that story. So that's one thing that they do to actually combat that. And that just comes down to journalism code of ethics. They don't want to plagiarize. They want to have an original angle or a story of their own. Now, at the same time, if somebody does want to copy and paste your story into their blog, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like you said, they appreciate your content. They're sharing it with their audience directly in a very permanent and obvious way. What Google does, though, is they look at that and they have an issue. If they can't tell who published the piece of content first, then it's going to hurt both authorities that are publishing the piece of content. But if they can tell who published the piece of content first, then oftentimes the second publication or third or fifth publication of it is just simply not going to rank as well as the first one. The reason being, Google doesn't want to show a search result page where, let's imagine that you plug in a keyword and you get 10 of the exact same article on a bunch of domains there. Is that a good user experience? Definitely not. And so Google wants to protect that from happening. So they're only going to show one instance of those. So they have to pick which one is it. Now, when you have a piece of content that gets copied and pasted on the web, you can do a couple of different things. If you're like a media company and you're producing a lot of content, or you produce more than probably an article a week and you're concerned about that happening, you could sign up for Copyscape, I think it is. Maybe Copyscape or Copyspace, I can't remember. Let me look it up while I'm talking here. But the whole idea of that is they constantly scour the web for and I'm not affiliated with them, so I promise you I'm not selling them here, but they constantly scour the web for plagiarized content, and they give you alerts if they find instances of your content elsewhere on the web. And then what you can do is you can outreach and say, hey, I noticed you shared my blog article. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. I hope your audience likes it too. Let me know if there's anything else I could send you in terms of content to share with your audience. I'd love to help you out. But if you don't mind, could you please embed this canonical link code in the back end of your article here that points to my site and just lets Google know that I was the original author of that piece of content. Otherwise, to Google, it looks like plagiarism, and I'm sure you do not want to be accused of plagiarism by Google, right? And so with a statement like that, most people are going to comply because you're not making any threats. You don't really have any ground to make any threats or anything like that, but you get the sense that you're kind of accusing them of plagiarism if they don't do this. And so I find that by doing that, that kind of helps a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If your content is strong enough to where other people are finding it and they are influential enough to copy and paste it onto their site, it might actually not be hurting you at all, because you clearly have enough authority to where Google is likely going to say, hey, you're probably the one with the original publication of this piece anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. You cleared that up for me big time. And I'm just, amazed and scratching my head at how damn smart Google is. Unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. Every day I'm scratching my head too.
Yeah. Well, and one of the topics that you're an expert in, and I think you covered some of it, and I'll ask you if you want to add any more, is, content marketing and link building. What more would you expand on that for the small business entrepreneur? I
really think that those are the two main core elements of search engine optimization, or have been the two main core elements of SEO for a few years now. And what that looks like, content marketing really is focusing on content that speaks to your audience, that answers the questions they have and provides value that they need. That could be in the form of blog articles. That could be in the form of pages on your site, such as pricing or features pages. We deal with a lot of that for our SaaS clients. If you serve a few different personas or avatars, you'll want to have at least a page dedicated to each one of those personas on your site, so that when the CFO of a Fortune 500 company, let's say that's one of your personas, when they come in on that page, you're speaking directly to them. You're not giving them the lingo that you're giving the marketing buyer at a smaller company, which is a different persona that you have. So you have to keep that kind of stuff in mind. So I would put a lot of work into my content marketing. One good book for learning more about content marketing, in my opinion, is Content Rules. It's by the crew behind, I think, Marketing Profs and maybe Content Marketing Institute, something along those lines. It's on my shelf here somewhere, but fantastic book if you want to really understand content marketing top to bottom without excluding anything. They hit it all. So that's like the content marketer's book. And then link building is just a process of ensuring that as you're producing that content, to test how valuable it is, go out there and try to get people to link to it. If you're having a hard time getting people to link to it, it may not be valuable content, or your outreach approach may not be good. But regardless, you're going to have to get some links to these pieces of content for them to rank in Google. And now going beyond that, kind of the new thing that I think it's had its time coming for a while now, is better usability of your website. So this is where designers and developers kind of have a second renaissance with the importance from a business perspective. I've always known that design was really critical from a business perspective to help with conversions. But nowadays, Google is actually looking at your site's ability to convert and entice visitors to engage with your website as a more important ranking factor than links. Right? So links were the most important thing for many years, but as of 2018, Google's now saying if a user comes to your website and does not linger long, does not find what they're looking for, and bounces out pretty quick, we're going to demote you in the rankings. That's actually what's happening. So I would just say make sure that your site is usable, it loads fast, people find what they need easily. One good way to do that is to take your website, go to a total stranger, somebody who does not know your website or company at all, sit them down in front of it and tell them to go do something. I want you to find out about this product and just see how they do it and watch their blockages, take note, and then go to your designer and have them change those things. That's a real common, simple test.
No, that's awesome. And there's a lot of companies out there too that will do that for you as well. You know, I have a good friend, Steve Gisson. That's what he does for a living. Is he'll set up research studies with people to go to the site and he'll ask them to do something, and he'll see where they go and what stumbling blocks they have, et cetera, and then give a full report. I did it once with one of my former companies, and it was amazing. Things that I thought were so obvious.
Yeah.
You know, someone into the site's like, I don't know where to go. Why would I click here? And I'm like, really? So
Right. Yeah. No, love that stuff.
So Jeremiah, we're going to wind up here, but before we go, I know you have a gift for our listeners, right, and viewers, the anatomy of SEO for SaaS companies. And so is there a way that they can get that from you, and how do they get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you?
Sure. Yeah. They can go to simpletiger.com/anatomy. It will automatically take them to the landing page to get that ebook. They will be signed up to get some emails from me. So if they do want to get in touch, they'll be getting an email from me. I'm not going to spam them. We have a very simple, laid back process about our email system. But yeah, I think it's a pretty simple book. It kind of lays out the whole structure and architecture of SEO so that you're not in the dark about how it works. And then I actually think if you want to go much deeper into studying SEO, the Moz Beginner's Guide to SEO. This is, again, no affiliation to that or them whatsoever, but that's an incredible book for learning search engine optimization. Highly recommend it. And if you want to get in touch with me, just reach out, Jeremiah@simpletiger.com. I'd be happy to have a chat.
Excellent, Jeremiah. Well, I could tell that you're a great guy. You seem you're chill, you're cool, but and I'll say and wicked smart. So that's a good
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, congratulations on all your success. I wish you much more success, and I hope we keep in touch.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Avanti listeners, for listening to the show today. We appreciate you as always. If you want to learn more about Avanti and how we can help you scale your business, go to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com, where we also have all of you can listen to this podcast again and also past podcasts as well. We're into the hundreds now, folks, and we've got them all on AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. So thank you so much. Have a great day and stay awesome.
Thank you for listening. Head over to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com for show notes and more helpful advice from entrepreneurs like you. Continue to find your entrepreneurial rhythm at the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast.